Lori and Rhonda and Paige and the entire Henry County Medical Center staff for having me here today. Can you guys hear me okay? If you can't, just start raising your hand or get up and dance. Well, I have to do slides up here, so I can't go too far. But I want to thank them for having me here tonight. It's so exciting. This is one of my favorite parts of my job, is coming out and talking to consumers, women like you guys. And one of the other, I honestly just have the best job in the world, to be frank with you guys. I have been in healthcare for 15 years, as Tori mentioned. And what I do, aside from speaking to consumers and women and people across the country like you guys, is to also work with hospitals to help them better connect with women. Did you guys know that there are some hospitals, like Henry County, who actually spend a lot of resource, spend a lot of time, and are very intentional about connecting with women? Do you guys, you're so lucky to have a resource like them in your community, because not every hospital is like that. So you're very, very lucky. In fact, before I worked at Relevate, one of the things I did was, prior to my life here, I worked at a hospital in North Carolina. And I spent a significant amount of time trying to convince my executives there that having a women's strategy, connecting with women, is really, really important. And at one point, my CEO, it's a boardroom filled with men, said, "Melissa, I just don't get it. I don't understand. That seems like you're leaving out men, and it just doesn't make sense, and what's this all women thing about?" And I asked him a simple question. I said, "So when you're sick, or if you felt like you were having a heart attack, who would you call? You had one call. What's your guess?" Their wife. I'm like, "So you wouldn't call 911? Like, the more obvious answer," and they said no. So 15 years later, I'm kind of pressure testing this with my husband again, and I said, "Hey, if you felt like you were having a heart attack, who would you call?" And he said, "You." And he said, "And if I got a second call, I'd call you again, because once the ambulance came, I wouldn't know what hospital to go to." Touche. So that is still a really real reality in our communities. So I want to spend some time today talking to you guys about how I live a really grateful life. And I'm sorry for you guys in the back, but I can't do this and this up there. So I thought, one of the important things, I think, when you're talking with someone and making a connection, is to understand who they are and what makes them who they are. And I think one of the best places to start is the lessons that your mama taught you, right? So we're going to go around the room, and I'm just going to tell their favorite lesson that their mom taught them, okay? No, we can't do that because we'd be here all night. But one of the number one things that is not on the screen that my mama taught me is that you never, ever leave the house without putting on. So you guys said the same thing. Clean underwear. I thought that was a given. So my mom always told me, never ever leave the house without putting on your lipstick. It completes your face. So I am the girl who, in the car pickup line with my 3 kids, my hair might be going every which way till Sunday, but I've got my lipstick on. And I feel complete. Or I might be having my baby at the hospital, and I'm just groggy, and 15 hours of labor and C-sections, but I've got my lipstick on. It just makes me feel better. So that's my number one lesson. But to be more serious, the 3 things that my mom really taught me were to love hard. We moved a lot as a family. Not Army, but my dad was in sales, and our territory kept changing, so we moved along, obviously, with him. And she always said, "Melissa, family is what you have. It's what you can count on. These are your people that are in your corner. Don't ever lose sight of that. Family is your rock." So to this day, my family is my rock. Live bold. One of the things I love about my mom is that she never seemed afraid of anything. And one small example of that is she was a stay-at-home mom for 25 years. And when we all left the house, I have an older sister and a younger brother, so 25 years of staying at home. And she said, I feel like I need to do something else. I spent so much time volunteering at schools and doing things for you kids, and I feel like I've lost a little bit of myself. So she said, I'm going to go back to work, and I'm going to get my real estate license. 2 years later, she was the top producer in the state of North Carolina. Like, the thought of stopping work right now makes me nervous because I feel like I'll be irrelevant when I walk out the door, much less coming back 25 years later. And I don't think she smudged her lipstick in the process. She just did it full force. The last thing that she always instilled in us is pray a lot. And Brittany, I think you are a remarkable human being. I think you're a superhero. So there's that. But you're right. In order to get through every day, it's praying a lot for me. It is getting on my knees because I realize I can't do any of this alone. So for me, that is a staple in my life. So the other thing is that life is hard, right, you guys? Life is kind of complicated. It's not so easy. And I think it's so easy to sit back and think that everybody else has it figured out. Whether you're on social media, whether you're just putting on your brave face, it is really, really easy to look at people and think, wow, they really just have it all figured out, and I'm over here a hot mess. I feel like that a lot. Do any of you guys? Yeah, no, I got a hand too, yes. Amen, yeah. So, I mean, and it's a real thing because a lot of people, there's a quote out there that's, you never know the struggles or the burdens that people are carrying, so just be kind, and it's so true. So the other thing about life is hard and complicated, but it's absolutely and rarely Pinterest perfect. Have any of you guys ever seen that show, Nailed It, on Netflix? Okay, so if you haven't, you need to go watch it. I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of us like reality TV because, you know, the scripted dramas and everything's like, you know, picture perfect. Reality TV gives us a little bit of dose of, wow, like they're crazy, you know? And my life doesn't seem so crazy anymore. But Nailed It is one of those shows where they give people recipes or ingredients and they say, go make it. And this is what it's supposed to look like in the end. And it's a unicorn cake and the unicorn spout's like coming off the side and the eyes are, you know, dripping down and it just doesn't look perfect. And that is rarely, that's kind of how life is, right? So I wanted to share with you guys some of my truths, some of the things that keep me on point in my life. And these are definitely things that my mom has taught me too, but just some of the things that I have experienced in my life, and that is not to say that I have this all figured out. That is not to say I'm standing up here saying, you know, I'm teaching you to do this. This is me almost saying it out loud to be held accountable to this, because I'm still trying to figure all this out too. So if anybody ever stands up in front of you and says, this is the formula for getting it right, they're lying, because things change on a daily basis. So the number one truth here is you don't have to be perfect to be amazing. I know many of you, Tori started the conversation today by saying some of you are moms, grandmothers, sisters, you work full time, whether it's in or out of the home, you're married. We're trying to fulfill all these roles in life, and it's really hard. And this is what we see, right? This is actually me on the left, but this is the filter that Facebook or Instagram or Twitter make you look like. So no wonder we have a bunch of people walking around feeling like they don't measure up. Because this is what we see with our friends on the right. You know, we see the perfection. If only we could get that filter to follow us around in life, right? And it kind of does in some ways. I've noticed that, you know, I have a filter that follows me around with my marriage. Oh, you know, we're perfect. We never fight. We're so happy we have the best sex all the time. Or my kids, they never fight. They're perfect little angels. They sit there, they wait to be told to get up. You know, they pull the chairs out for me all the time. They win the leadership awards at school. They get straight A's. You know, hashtag winning. But really, in reality, we're on the left, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. So learning to live with, not saying learning to live was just being mediocre by any sense of the means, but learning to take the filter off and really learn to love yourself and not feel like you have to be this picture-perfect version of yourself. Social media has also taught me a couple things to explain this picture a little bit. It has defined, we have some new definitions because of social media. One is, you know, friends to me when I grew up were people that you want to come over to play, you want to call and talk to, share your dark, you know, deepest, darkest secrets. Now a friend online is someone who follows you that you may or may not know, who keeps up with your life on Facebook or Instagram, and then they kind of can judge you behind a keyboard screen, right? And that's totally different than what I grew up with. So having to redefine what life looks like based on social media is an important part of what we're all going through right now. The second thing is making you feel like you've got this, have to have this filter on, right? So one of the stories I wanted to share with you is going along the whole theme of my kids being perfect and always listening and never doing anything outside the lines. We're in the grocery store one day, and I'm walking down the aisle in the frozen food section, and it's one of those days where you guys know as moms, if any of you are in the audience, where you've got the stare. You better stop right now. It's that death look, Or you got the mom snap, where like dads can't do that, but you got that mom snap, like get over here right now. So I'm doing all those things, threading them to the moon and back, and they're kind of going crazy, and I'm turning around to get stuff out of the frozen food section, and I turn around and they're gone. So I, as a mom, I'm like, okay, look to the left, they're not there, look to the right, I cannot find them. So I'm panicking, running up and down the aisle. I probably look like a crazy person, but I had my lipstick on. Running up and down, looking around the end caps, and I don't see him, and I see this gentleman who's walking towards me, and he's kind of chuckling, and I'm like, that's not nice. I'm like, sir, I've lost my kids, and he's trying to talk to me, ma'am, and I'm like, sir, I've lost my kids, I need to call the police, it's been a minute now, and I'm really stressing. You guys can feel the panic as moms of not being able to find your kids. And he turns, and he just points, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then I look, and I see my kids in there. And there was a moment in me that was like, oh, get out of the way now, But then I stopped, and I was like, you know what? Like, that's funny. Right? Thank you, yes. I mean, their boys, at least they were contained. What more can you ask for? So, this just goes to show you, the masks can come off, and real life is chaotic, but real life and chaos can be just as perfect and beautiful as the filters that we put on. Can I get an amen to that? All right, now truth number 2, live connected. So this does not mean to your device, right? Which a lot of us do. I'm guilty of that as well. This really means live connected with people who make you better at life. So we all need to be friends with Brittany, is the moral of the story right here. But really and truly, there are a lot of friends that we have that really, their values don't align with yours. They don't support you maybe as you like them to. And we need to be really good friends, because in order to live this crazy, chaotic world, in this world that we live in, we have to have people that will support us and stand beside us shoulder to shoulder. And I have an example of one of my girlfriends. Her name is Kelly. And last week I was on my way home from Memphis, and she gave me a call, and she said, Melissa, I'm struggling a little bit in my marriage. And I was like, I'm so sorry to hear that. And she said, yeah, I was talking with one of my girlfriends, and she was telling me that my problems were a sign that divorce is in the future. She said, you guys don't connect intimately. I'm hot and heavy all the time, and we're just it's like love at first sight every time we walk through the door. And I said, Cal, I'm like, that's not true. That's not true, because life happens. Headaches happen or whatever, things happen, you don't feel good, and it's not always going to be the roses and butterflies and everything like that. So having people in your life that'll speak truth, who will support you and not make you feel bad, and really approach it from a helpful manner, is always so important as well. Truth number 3 is surrender and lean. So this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to learn. The picture that you saw above in the very first slide that I put up there of my husband, Jake, who's awesome and amazing, and he's at home with our 3 boys, shuffling them to football and baseball and all the other things, who consequently thinks that I'm in Paris because I like Paris, Europe, because I left a note saying, in Paris, be back! Forgot to add the Tennessee. So I took a picture by the Eiffel Tower, and I'm going to juxtapose that, and it would be the fastest trip to Europe ever. but my 3 boys as well, Max, who's 9, Charlie, who's 7, and Sam, who's 5. And everything was great until Sam came along. Not to say that Sam is like, bad, but he's our tornado in life, right? He is like, Max has got it all together, and he's very type A, and he's, he loves school and reading and baseball, and he's, just really everything has got to be so. Charlie's more more athletic, and he never sits still, but he's, super healthy. But Sam came along, and we kind of noticed along the way that he just didn't, he wasn't eating as well, and he wouldn't nurse. And 3.5 weeks into him being born, he spiked a really high fever. And if any of you guys know, newborns 30 days and under requires going to the hospital immediately. So after calling the pediatrician, she said, you need to go to the hospital immediately. We went there and found out that he had meningitis. So we were in the hospital with him for a few weeks. Fortunately, he came out of that, okay, and so grateful for modern medicine and providers and nurses who give of themselves all the time. But we noticed that he just never really recovered fully. So any little cold would send him straight to pneumonia, into like having pneumonia. There was one time, and it was January 13th, where his breathing had been really labored for a very long time. And so after going to the urgent care the day, 2 days before, calling our pediatrician, going there over and over again, I finally decided to bring him back because something in me just didn't sit right. So I went back, and Dr. Knight, who's our pediatrician in Atlanta, so I'm not from here, she said, I'm glad you brought him back in. We need to call the ambulance. And so we've spent a lot of time in the hospital with Sam. He is an awesome kid, and now I know why his personality is so big, right? He was born with unstructured lungs. It took us forever to figure that out because they thought it was cystic fibrosis. Then they thought, it was just a series of other things that they kept ruling out. And really, at the core of it, his organs were just not formed properly when he was born. So every little cold that he got sent us to the hospital. We spent 3 weeks at a time in the PICU and the NICU the first 2.5 to 3 years of his life. And it actually was because of organizations like Easton's Angels that helped me get through it. But there was one night when I was sitting in the nursery with him, and as a mom, you just try everything you can. You get all the medicines, and I had it charted out, every single symptom, and when things happened, and I just realized that nothing I was doing was helping, and I couldn't solve this. And so I literally dropped to my knees and just said, okay, God, I can't do this, you're gonna have to do it. And it was one of those defining moments in my life where I really had to lean in and allow people to help me. And that is really hard for me. I'm stubborn. I want to do things, I don't want to burden people, but there are times in life when you have to surrender and let go and let other people come in and hold you up. And this was a period about 3 years in our life when we really had to do that. And I'm so thankful for the people, for the good friends, who lead us well in our life that got us through that. So kudos to what you guys are doing, and I'm so grateful for organizations like you that helped us through it. Sam, fortunately, another lesson in this whole thing of surrendering and leaning was after trying test after test to figure out what was going on with Sam, when they uncovered another heart issue that we would have never learned about. And they said, we're so glad we could figure this out and help you manage it, because it's very likely he would have been one of those athletes on the football field that just fell, and we never know what happened. So there was so much beauty that came from that chaos that I had to sit back and choose to look at this situation as a gift. And whether you're going through things with illness, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's marriage issues, there's a lot of heavy burdens that people are sitting with, but I promise you, if you just wait, surrender and lean, you're gonna see some of that beauty that comes from it. But this is a reminder to do things that you love. And as Tori mentioned, if you haven't gone to the doctor, if you haven't had your mammogram, if you don't sleep, you don't exercise, we need to remember self-care. How many of you struggle with that? Yes. It's really hard, right? So I know some people didn't want to raise their hand, but it is really hard to prioritize ourselves, so we have to do that. Find fun things to do. Dancing for me is one of those. All right, choose number 5 is living intentionally grateful. So this is something that I do on a daily basis. I think it's actually pivotal to health and happiness and good relationships. And it's actually perfect because you guys got a great journal as you walked in today. And so I'm a little like out of breath from dancing. But this is an activity that I do every day. So I start my day in a posture of gratitude. I sit up and I think, what are 3 simple things that I'm grateful for? Today, this is my list. Henry County, friendships and Spanx, ladies. Right? Yes! You gotta get real, right? They really do help. So I encourage you, as an action step from today, start tomorrow in a posture of gratitude. Take that journal out. Write your top 3 favorite things, the things that you're grateful for, the things that you're looking forward to in tomorrow, or if you want to do it retrospectively. It is so important to remember the good things because life is complicated and it's hard and it's messy and it's not picture perfect, but there is always something to be grateful for. So can you guys do that tomorrow? Get your pen out and write something that you're grateful for. All right. So the bottom line here today is, let's take off our filters. Let's step outside the box. Let's be grateful. Be and surround yourself with friends who love you and want to support you. Be real with yourself and allow yourself to be yourself. Keep yourself a priority. Do all those things that we talked about and choose joy. Because the reality is we have the opportunity to choose the vantage point that we want to approach the day in. So why not choose joy? And why not choose gratitude? Thank you guys so much for having me out tonight. It was so much fun to be with you. And